Hi everyone, welcome to Paris Biotech events. My name is Yulia Dimbitske and I'm organizing events at Paris Biotech. It's our first event and our guest, Pier Bruno Ricci, will explain us today about working in pharma and healthcare consulting. Pier Bruno has PhD in molecular biology and currently works as a strategy consultant at Septon Strategies, a strategy consulting company specializing in pharma and healthcare. Today we will discuss following topics. First, we will talk about strategic consulting, and then specifics about pharma and healthcare consulting. Pier Bruno will walk us also through his normal working day, explain us details how it works, and then he will explain us how to transition from academy to consulting firm. We will discuss many more other topics, so please watch the following video.
What is the consulting? Because consulting means everything and nothing, because at the basis, consulting is to give suggestions, so to give guidance to other people. And there are different kinds of consulting. Today we are going to speak just about strategy consulting, and this is what I do. So in strategy consulting, companies ask to another company's help. They just have a problem, they just don't know how to deal with something, or they just want to ameliorate their performances. They have a question, okay? So they ask to companies, consulting companies, to help them. And this is one thing that you should always think about. Each kind of companies, pharma companies, biotech companies, startups, they cannot manage their business by their own, alone, never. This never happens. It's really, really rare that the company is able to manage from A to Z everything in their life. So strategy consulting firms are boutiques. So the difference is that the firm is a big company, the boutique are smaller ones. They help, so they guide the company, the clients, through a process, trying to give them the way to solve their problems, okay? So I discovered this book. I started to think about this path, and I decided that I wanted to be a strategy consultant for different reasons. The first one was the variability. So I understood doing networking, asking people on LinkedIn, trying to send messages, trying to speak with other people in the field. What was your daily job? What kind of practical job you do each day? Who are your clients? What they do? And I understood that in strategy consulting there is a lot of variability, meaning that each 2-3 months, each 4-5 months, you are working with the different clients, you are working on a different missions, and you discover a new brand world, let's say. This was what was fascinating me most, because I did a PhD, I was studying my protein for 3 years. I wanted just to discover what was outside there, you know, how many things you can do in parallel, how many things there are outside. And life science consulting is actually this. So work with clients that are in the different fields. So for example, the chemical fields, the biopharmacological field, but also, for example, the aesthetic field, dealing with molecules for aesthetic, for example, or any kind of field related to life science is related to my job. So our clients are different clients that can be big size, little size. They can be investment funds. For example, they want to invest in biotechs or technologies. They don't know what to do. They can be, for example, small startup or small companies that develop a drug. They don't know how to launch this. So, for example, they are in California. This is like a mission that I did when I started working in Septon Strategies. And they just invented this drug. It was really effective, but they didn't know how to deal with Europe. You know, like there is Italy, France. How can you sell a product in Ireland? How do you price a product in Iceland, for example? So you cannot know everything, and you need help. And this is where strategy consultants arrive, because you can answer to the question of a client that has a budget and ask the help for some weeks, some months, and you try to do this during the period that you schedule with your client. So essentially, this is the way, and this is what I do today. I know that, Julia, you have some questions, more targeted. So I leave you, again, the possibility to ask me what you want.
Yes, thank you very much for such a nice introduction. I am very interested in life science consulting myself, because I think it's really a great job that helps to promote efficiency in the system. Like, a lot of people really don't know how to do things properly, and outside look can really improve this process. That's why I'm very excited about working life science consulting. And well, my first question would be like, how did you arrive to this job? Like, why? I mean, you partially replied to this.
Yeah, it's true, but yeah, we can go deeper. So one thing that you should know about this job is that you cannot start working in consulting just with an interview. So they ask you, you did a PhD or you did a business school. Okay, this is cool, but it's not just this. To enter in strategy consulting, you have to pass different rounds of interviews. And when I say rounds, I say about from 3 to 7 interviews, one after another. And each interview is a case study. I think that some of you heard this word. Case studies is just a situation where you put an interviewee and you try to see how the person in front of you is structured, is able to find a solution in a constructive but in a creative but in a structured way. And you try to see if this person will be able to do consulting, because this is really a focal point. To do consulting is not about knowing things, it's more about structuring things, more about how to deal with problems, how you will find a solution, not about, okay, you did 10 years about molecular biology, you know everything about genes, protein, you know everything about probably a new technology, but the next month you will have a client that is, for example, in the chemical world, and you just don't know anything about biochemistry or just something, you know. So consultants should be able to start from zero, start from scratch, create a plan, trying to see different ways to answer the questions, because the clients are not stupid. If the answer is easy to find, they will do by their own. So sometimes the information are not easy to find. I will give you an example. I did a mission with a client that was a leader in a raw material field. They didn't know what was their market sizing. So market sizing meaning how much this raw material we are selling to in Europe, for example, to the clients compared to our competitors. So what is our positioning, you know? Because there are not tables where you can find this data, because private companies don't publish always what they sell. So you need to find some ways to understand what was the market sizing. So here enters the fact that according to the path that you had during your life, so if you did a master, if you did a PhD, in consulting, it counts for the soft skills you got, not for the knowledge that you have. So how can you deal with a client that can be nervous in front of you? How can you speak in public? How many languages probably you can speak? How can you structure a situation? So these are just examples about the fact that you should understand, because I know that most of you are working in life science or either in pharma. It's not about knowledge, because I have colleagues that never touched a pipette like in the labs. They never read a book of biology. They don't know anything about anatomy, but they are great consultants in life science because they know how to structure a problem, they know how to find a solution, and then they ask me probably the help to understand, hey, sorry, can you explain me better the translation in a cell, for example? How is it working? But if you want to become a strategy consultant, you should try to improve the skills that are about for consulting, not the skills that are for life sciences, let's say. Then in parallel, you should try to be updated. So during an interviews, they asked me, do you know some last or recent mergers and acquisition have been in big pharma, for example? And since the year before, I was reading sometimes publication from Financial Times or from the website in LinkedIn, from the sites of consulting companies like the company I'm working in, so the Septon Strategies. And I read sometimes, oh, there is this merge, $70 billion, something crazy. So you should just to be informed about your field if you want to work in this field. But this is, and again, I will share my screen with you. You should try to become great in case studies, because this is the way people that are applying to consulting firms will be evaluated. If you can do case studies and you have some knowledge about the field, you will be a great consultant. So you will be part of the team. So this is an example of one of the first books that I read. This guy, Victor Cheng, worked in a famous consulting firm for all his life, and he now is just teaching how to become a consultant. I'm not speaking about life science consultant because I think you understood that to work like in life science is not the main deal. It's more to work in strategy consulting. The deal is this. This is another book that I read, trying to prepare myself for interviews. Another thing that I would like to share with you is that I did a business school. So I did 1 year of specialized master in biopharmaceutical management. And lots of people asking me, so would you be able to work today as life science consulting without a business school? I will say potentially yes, because I have friends that obtain some offers without doing business schools, but they train it a lot, because life science consulting anyway is about business. So if you don't know what I'm speaking about, if I say your revenues, fixed cost, you will be lost, because you need some basis. So start to read also books, or trying to create the culture of business and economy. It's really important, because in strategy, companies are asking you to help, and everything is always related to the profits. They will not ask you help and paying thousands of dollars and euros if it's not about money, because they need to survive, they need to launch a product, they need to pay people. So you need to have some basis. So I think you can do by your own. There are, for example, the GMAT test. If you obtain a degree in GMAT, you will be able also to, something about economy, so you can apply. Clearly, you should be good in case studies in parallel. But you should always think about this thing. You have to be prepared about a life in business. And this is why, if you're thinking about, you like research, you want to do research, consulting will not be for you, because you have to renounce for all your life about research. And when I say your life is a decision, because imagine you don't publish anything for 3 years, and it will be difficult for you to come back to research. You could probably work in a company, in a pharmaceutical company, so somehow you will deal about research. For example, now I'm working from 6 months with a big company that are trying to stretch the timing of clinical trials. So I'm understanding more now about clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2B, what is a preclinical phase, more now than during my PhD, because I didn't know anything. So somehow I'm working with clinical trials, I am understanding, I'm in the field, but I'm not doing research. So if you like research, you should keep going doing research, probably in a company, not in academia. But if you want to do consulting, you should be ready to leave the research, because it's either one way, either the other way.
I see. Thank you very much. So this is a rather like a downside, and that you cannot continue research. And okay. And what do you see as an upside of work in consulting?
Well, of course, as I say, the variability of subject, because you learn a lot. So I started to work in Septon strategies in November, and I didn't have holidays. I'm giving you just an example of what happened. And during Christmas, I was almost alone in the company because I didn't measure holidays. I didn't have holidays. And my boss asked me to prepare a proposal for a client that wanted to study the way to inject gene therapies today. So how they inject these liquids, these solutions. I didn't know anything. In 2 weeks, I became the most expert of Paris about gene therapy because you are forced to learn. You are there, you have to understand the field. And this probably will be useful to have a master degree because you can understand, I think that a person in my company without a degree in science would have had really difficulties to do it. But one thing cool is that the variability and the curve of knowledge is impressive because you become expert in a field in 1 month. So another hub, so it's the fast growth. You learn a lot, you learn fast, you learn about different fields. And another thing is the human side of the job. When I was doing research, I was all day on in French we call the paillasse, so in my lab on the bureau, and I was doing experiments. And sometimes you have seminars, sometimes you can speak with people, but mostly it's just about you, your computer, and your experiments. I was missing this human side, so speaking with people all day long. And in consulting, you can do from two different ways: with clients, because sometimes you have to go to the client, you have to speak with him, you have to show him or her the updates of each week. And there is also the side of colleagues. So, for example, now I'm working with 3 colleagues on a project, and we are speaking on Microsoft Teams. We are like speaking 4 hours a day together, doing work together, trying to push ourselves, motivate ourselves. So it's really, really nice. This is another hub that for me it was vital, and it is one of the reasons I did consulting.
Nice. And what kind of people usually are your colleagues? Like all of them have biological backgrounds, or most of them not?
So I would say 50%. We are about 25 people. We are 5 people with PhDs. There is a guy with a PhD in chemistry, one with a PhD in physics. There are some people with master degrees and business school in parallel, so master degree in science. There are people that did just finance studies. So this is one of the really the great side of consulting, because you are around you, there are lots of smart people that did lots of study, different kinds. So you can learn from everyone because nobody is like you. You are like unique somehow. And just to come back to the subject of PhDs, having people with PhDs in consulting companies is really rare, because PhDs, they don't know about this job, but they have lots of skills that also people in science may have that are quite useful. So you will be a great resource for a company, because you can you know how to speak with other people, you know how to do synthesis of complex subjects. You know how to deal personally with complicated work, hard times. So you know that if you fail, you can come back. You know that experiments are not always working. So there is this resilience part that it's quite important in consulting. And you should know that the turnover in consulting, strategy consulting, is really, really high compared to other jobs, because it's quite demanding. My times, during the week, I work usually from 9 to 8, 9 to 8 and a half. It depends, with pauses, clearly. This is an average in consulting. In some companies, you can do even more. And this is the reason why people in consulting, in average, last 3 years, 4 years, not more. For now, my objective is to stay there. Absolutely, I want to become senior consultant, then project manager, then try to lead the company somehow. But lots of people leave because it's quite demanding. This probably this is we say about up and down. This is probably down, but honestly, I did research. I'm not scared of working like until 7, 8, and it depends from what you want to do, because I'm enjoying my work and my job. So I'm enjoying about working this. I saw a question.
Yes, there is a question. Maybe Ilya can ask himself, or
Yeah. So do you have some advice on improving structured thinking? Some books about structural analyzing techniques. So for me, the best way is to test case studies live with other people. So you try to read some books about what they are. You try to test yourself. You try to do market sizing. Market sizing is, if I ask you how many windows are in New York City today, you should be able to give me somehow a number, arrive with some ideas to a number. And the market sizing and the profitability cases are the most known case studies that you can find. There is a website that is called craftingcases.com. There are two guys, ex-consultants, that are teaching you how to become more structured, how to improve your skills. They are really, really good. I suggest you, I will write you in the conversation here. But the first way is to train with other people, especially people that are better than you. So if you have the opportunity to do a case studies with someone that is in the field, you will learn a lot, because he will give you some precious suggestion. And either way, understand first, and then try to do some live cases. I saw another question. What are the usual exit options for life science consulting? Meaning 1 year and a half. I saw lots of people leaving the companies, and usually something that happens quite often is that you are going to work from one of your clients. Meaning, for example, you did a mission of 6 months with a big company, they liked you, they ask you, can you come with us to work, because we liked you, so we want you. This happens quite often. Another thing that happens is that people leave the company to found startups. So either they found or they join startups. This happens. Some people are going to do venture capitalists. Some people, they can join other kind of companies, because anyway, as I said, once you learn how to structure a problem and structure the solution, a plan, you will be able to do it either way in life science, in automotive, in aerospace. So the ways are more than you think. So these are the main 3-4 paths, but I saw lots of crazy things. So people that just left life science consulting and started to buy and resell apartment, for example, because they understood the game, they understood the business, so they create by their own a plan. So there are lots of things that you can do, really lots of things, but mostly either you go to work for a big company like a client, either a small one like a startup, trying to make it growing because you know how to do. Why do you think it is so important to have a good knowledge in economics? Would it be possible to be consultant only in more specific subject? Of course, yes. You can be an expert in a field, but you will not work as strategy consulting. This is because companies are not dealing just with the subject. So it's really rare that you become an expert in a subject and you can gain the trust of a client just because you're an expert. And you can prove this expertise how? Like with your publication, okay, but it's not usually the problem that they have. Usually the problem that they have is about business, is about we need to launch a new drug and it costs us billions of dollars. How can we reduce it? So we want to launch, for example, a new product in France. We don't know what to do. So, the problem is that in any way, the economy is there, the business is there. So it's really difficult to become life science consultant, so strategy consultant, not dealing with the economy, because it will not be the kind of job I'm speaking about. Because probably you think that consultants in life science, the thing is that there are different consulting, as I said at the beginning. Consultant mean anything and nothing. So life science consulting, as I'm speaking about what is my job, is strategy consultant. So it will be not possible to just become an expert, because each week, each month, the mission will change. So you need to be adapt, and you need to learn how to be adapted to any kind of subject. Would you suggest doing internships in one of the consultancy companies before applying for the job? I would suggest yes. I just want you to understand that once you put the foot inside the company, you did really 50% of the job, because it's so difficult to start working for them, so difficult to have an internship, because it's really competitive environment. I say the example of my companies. We don't have just people with PhDs and people with master degrees. We have also people that have master degrees in economy, in finance. So I'm dealing with people that have different skills from me. So if, for example, in my company today, we are 10 with the PhDs, with master degree in life science, we are probably too much, because you need to compensate, you need to balance with other people. So the places are quite limited and the environment is competitive. So if you can do an internship, it will be great, because you can start to understand the job, you can start to meet people, you can start to show your value about the day-by-day job, and 80% of the times they will ask you to stay there. Because if you are in a company and you show your value, you will see the difficulty for them. If you show your value, they will keep you. Sometimes, like in this period, like with the COVID, it happened that they just quit with lots of interns because they don't have the money to keep going, so they need to start a business. But especially in strategy consulting, find good people that are structured, that are good in the day-by-day job, that are nice somehow. It's really hard. So I suggest you to do an internship. Try to do internship. Yes, of course.
Yeah, since we started speaking about COVID, maybe can you tell us like how the industry actually reacted to this?
Yeah. So there is, like, I don't know how do you say in English, but there is a gold further, and everyone are running to keep the gold. Gold is the vaccine. They start to invest lots of money trying to find treatments and vaccines. And the problem is that in my field, they had loss anyway, because companies, also pharma companies, so I'm speaking about people that are doing marketing, medical affairs. So these kind of people, they go to work. So for them, it was not easy to go to work. And companies, so also the industrial part of the companies that are producing the drugs, that are producing the syringes or producing other kind of treatments, they lost money. So there has been a loss. So one thing that they did related to consulting, they start to reduce a bit the investment they do usually to externalize the job. So for example, if before they were thinking about recruit a consulting company to do their job, now they are thinking, okay, probably we'll be a little bit more careful because we don't have the money for now. We will be obliged to fire someone. So let's try to focus on us, and then we will see outside. But in parallel, they invested a lot in for the COVID, and you will see the first companies that will find and will demonstrate something on a vaccine. They will be so good for the next years because they will change the world somehow. They will really reshape their economy and they reshape the face of their company. So it will be massive.
I see. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very interesting. in your opinion, when do you think it's going to happen? I mean, like the recovery from this stress and.
For me, in October, November, we should have something. The problem is to produce at large scale, because just to discover something, it's a problem. The second problem is that how we can reach each person in the world now with the vaccine. So this will be a secondary problem, and I'm sure there will be lots of merge or venture work together. The companies will start to work together. They will do joint venture, for example, because just to produce some drugs, they will not be able to do it practically. They will not be able to produce day by day the thing necessary for all the years and all the people that are in the different countries and continents. So I think that in October, November, we will have something, and for the next year, we will start to be vaccinated like crazy from the next year to 2021.
Yes, that sounds great. I know if someone else has some questions.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, there is one question in the chat.
In your company, are you working mostly on your own or in teams? Does it depend on the mission and the client? Yes, so it depends from the mission and the clients. Let's say that the clients need help for the next 6 months to restructure, for example, the organigram of a business unit, because there are so many people, they don't know how they should allow the resources, so they ask your help. In this way, if you win the commercial proposal, so we will produce a commercial proposal, we will submit the proposal to the client will receive like a CV from other companies. They will select you because they know that you are good, you already did this, and this is something that happened also really often in my company, because the name of the company sometimes arrives before the rest, okay? So the reputation is really important. So you win the project, and now you have a budget, and you should allocate this budget to accomplish the job in the scheduled time. So let's say that it was 6 months, but the job is a lot, so you need at least 3-4 people to doing it. In average, we have a project manager that is managing the project, at least one consultant, either a senior consultant, and another person that is a business analyst, so an intern, and a consultant. So let's say that in average, we have mission about 3-4 people. But there are also shorter missions where you need just 2 people, or sometimes just 1. So especially project managers and senior consultants, they are able to manage everything by their own. So they will manage everything from the research of the data to the production of the slides, the Excels, so the deliverables. They will do everything by their own. So the thing is that depends from the clients and the mission. But in average, let's say 3-4 people. So another question, which vaccine do you think will be the first one to hit the market? Do you think this vaccine will be RNA or live attenuated vaccine? So I did a PhD on RNAs, so I love them a lot, especially microRNAs. But I don't know. I don't know because in my company we are publishing each week. So I suggest to you to start to follow, if you want to be a consultant, to start to follow companies that you think are in this field. So because the news are also in their website and their LinkedIn profiles. So on our website and on our LinkedIn page, we put each week or each 2 weeks updates about the COVID and the treatments that are studying. So how many clinical trials, which are the companies. And for now, there are lots of companies trying to do both things. So attenuated vaccines, RNA. So I don't know who will win. I really don't know. But I hope that will be something related about RNA, just for a personal point of view, because I love them. And I think they are one of the things that in science are a little bit on the dark. No one speaks about RNAs, but they are keeping with them some secrets about life that are amazing. So I hope that this will be the opportunity to show the potential of RNAs. to all the world. Clearly.
That's a great answer. We all have our preferences.
Yes, I'm sure about this.
I wanted to
I
ask,
have a
like,
question about your clients.
Yes.
Are they mostly like big pharmas or do you work with startups?
So it's let's say 50% big pharmas, 35% it's small companies that may be either startups or biotechs. So biotechs meaning a company that is dealing with just 2-3 molecule maximum, and they are trying to enter in the market. Okay, and 15% they are investment funds. So this happened because lots of companies want to bet on new technologies or smaller companies, and they try to do due diligence. This is the specific word we use in the field to evaluate these companies. So they asked us, can you give us a profile about this company, about this technology, and we will decide if to buy them or to renounce or to trying to do a venture, joint venture with them. So you do for 2-3 weeks an evaluation, really a deeper evaluation about them, about everything, like who are the person managing the business, what is the technologies they are dealing with, how they place compared to competitors, in which countries they can reach their technology, so everything. This is 15% of the mission. So the evaluation of small entities or growing entities, because when I say small, it may be also some hundreds of millions of euros. The 50% are big companies, so big pharmas that may be really on the top list of the 50 biggest companies in the world for revenues, and they may have all the kind of problems each kind of company can have. You should always think that a pharmaceutical company is not more than a company, so they have people inside them, they pay salaries. The good thing is that they also discover things that have an impact on the world. So it depends. It depends from the mission, and the goal is always to make your client happy. So if they have a precise question and you don't know how to answer, you should be to try to be honest and say, so this we cannot know, like the question about vaccines, because there are companies that ask you, so what will be the next vaccine? Where should we invest the money? And sometimes you just don't know. You should be honest and say, we can do our job, but we have limits, So to summarize, let's say 50% big companies with any kind of questions, 30%, 35% biotechs, and that probably they want to launch drugs in other countries or want to develop better, they want to hire managers, and 50% investment funds.
Okay, thank you. And can you get to choose the company you work with?
You can, yeah. You always try to have the one thing that is really difficult to manage in a consulting company is the, let's say, staffing, meaning you have 25 employees. You need to optimize these people as maximum. Like you have 25 people, you should be sure that everyone is working well during all the periods. So according to how many missions you gain, you need to increase, for example, your company, because if a year you did 100 something of revenues and you paid 25 people, 25 or 250 people, you understand that you will be able to win more projects, so you hire more people. This is how it works. And this is complicated because it's not easy to have 100% of staffed people on projects. And if you, in my company, for example, this is managed by the three bosses with the project managers, and they also are responsible for the recruiting because they know exactly how much business they have. But usually you should never say no to a project. So you should hire someone to do this project, because it's not a good thing to renounce the project because you are just renouncing to the business. It's like if you have the opportunity to gain more money and to have more people with their jobs and you renounce to this. So it happens. You can say no, but usually mostly is because you don't have people to do the project, not because you don't like the project.
Okay, thank you. And what do you do when you're not on a project? How do you spend your
So
time?
usually, if you're not on a project, it happens sometimes. You try to, for example, I did in December, the example that I did this commercial proposal for a company. Then the commercial proposal was done. I was not on a project, and we wrote, me and other colleagues, a publication about orphan drugs. So this is another thing that you can do. So you do research, you try to become more expert on a field that you think will be useful for the future of the company or for your next mission. So you can do publication, you can write, or you can sometimes just try to formate the others. So do formation to other colleagues. So for example, you're really good in Excel, so you just organize a small campus to your colleagues, showing the best tricks in Excel. So everything will be done for to let increase the company somehow, either internally, either externally. So you can do also, for example, recruitment. You can ask to your boss interesting CVs. So essentially, in a company like mine, if you have a good relationship with your bosses, so you can manage your time with them. And it's rare that you don't have anything to do, but if you don't have anything, let's say missions to do, you can do lots of things, as I say. I have a question there. As pharma biotech companies are investing lots of money in COVID-19 research, are they reducing investment in some other areas? What will happen to the companies investing money in COVID if they do not develop a product? Are there economic risks? So there is always a balance they are trying to keep, meaning that in each kind of investment there is a risk. But it's really rare that a big company do a risk that is outside their possibilities. They are also evaluating this risk really carefully. So if there are companies investing lots of money in COVID, in treatment vaccines to COVID-19, it means that they can do it. So they can renounce to other in parallel investment probably, because behind the COVID-19 there is a huge value. So the answer is essentially this: they may reduce investment in other areas, but because they see that there is a huge opportunity from the other side. But I didn't see companies that are like firing people because they want to invest on COVID. This is not happening, because you need to have always a base standard of earning, and you need to have, let's say, the fundamentals of your company. So you do investment with the profits you gain from the previous year. So you don't bet on the people inside your company. This doesn't happen usually. Okay.
I guess there are no more questions.
Actually, I have a question. I'm curious, just to change topics a bit. Do you know anything about immunotherapy for example, cancer? Like, I'm curious if you know anyone in Europe who's researching that area, and kind of who's investing in it. And
yeah, there are lots of.
I would like to work in that area.
Yeah, there are lots of companies working with this. It's like the future in oncology field, and clearly we have also lots of missions about this. One of the commercial proposals I wrote recently was about this, and the thing is that it's so innovative and so new that is like a deal. You don't know if it will be way better than previous drugs. Apparently it is in some trials, so they are betting on it. They can revolutionize the field, because you will be able to treat disease that before you were not able to treat. So like, it's amazing, but is as uncertain, because they don't know how much it could cost to invest in this field, especially because I'm speaking about clinical trials. Sometimes the trials are split in the way you try to, again, minimize the risk, and it's still quite risky. So there are usually one thing that it happens is that biotech companies or small companies develop the treatments, especially immunotreatments, and they will sell the technology to bigger companies. So if you want to work in this field, you can also check about business developer and venture capitalist jobs, because they are two jobs really related to the innovative fields like this one. But we, as a consulting company strategy, we have clients working with it. There are lots of companies working in it. Yes.
Yeah, I'm more looking the other way around, and I would like to work on research and work in a research facility as a software engineer or researcher.
Yeah,
I'll probably require doing a master's or something. I'm not sure yet. I have to do my homework.
But doing master in business to do this?
No, the other way. Do a research master's, like as a software engineer.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this case, you should absolutely to do an internship, either in a lab, either in a companies, in the field, because it will be super appreciated when you will apply in the real companies.
Yeah. Thanks.
Welcome. Don't hesitate if you have other questions or doubts. Here I have your question, Julia. I think we spoke about everything.
I have just an additional question, because I know that in VC funds and venture capitalist companies, they are often use external experts for certain questions. And I'm curious, do you use external experts for some super particular question?
So sometimes missions are on fields that are so specific that you need experts, meaning that I just do an example of a mission that I did last year. We wanted to understand how we would be able to launch a drug in a rare disease, but the disease was so rare that we didn't know like how many people, how many patients there were. Neither in Orphanet, their statistics are not very good, in PubMed, but not a lot of publication. So the only way is to ask to experts. And this is how you can get some information. You just pay experts and you do a call. The call can cost some hundreds of euros sometime, or for 1-2 hours, but you receive lots of precious informations, because you will create a story for a client thanks to these informations. Okay. Other way is to have experts is so you meaning this you were wanting to know this about projects. Okay, because sometimes you hire external consultants that are already in some fields, so you just do a deal with them. You work for us for 2-3 months and you will be the expert in this field, and you will give you will have an impact on our missions, but the mission will be managed by us. So this happens also. But usually when you do these calls or this meeting with the experts, it will be a job that lasts 1 day. So these experts will not have lots of jobs, let's say, because, like, for example, I spoke with lots of medical doctors in this field. Let's say that the job finished at the end of the call. I don't know, they should come back to their work. You cannot survive being an expert of a super rare disease. You should do another work parallelly.
I see. And how do you find the experts for this kind of job?
So what I have an experience either in a big company, either in a smaller boutique, and it depends from the budget that you have from the mission, and also from the resources that you have. Us, as smaller companies, we almost do everything by our own. So you look for expert in your own databases, because you have databases that you build in years of history. You have lots of contacts, so you ask to your contacts, and this is the specificity of a boutique specialized in life science. But in bigger companies where there is no, let's say, a specialization, you just have a team of people working in research that are trying to contact these people. So usually either you internalize this research entity, either you pay companies that they are doing headhunters for you. So let's say that tomorrow a clients want to know everything about immunotherapy in just a precise cancer. I don't know anything. So either I speak with my colleagues, my network, the information that I have internally. If I don't know anything, I go on LinkedIn, I start to search for people that are working there. I can contact them, or I contact a company doing headhunters.
I see. Interesting.
I see if you have an issue during your consulting work, are you allowed to find external help or out of your company, or you have confidential regulation? You can. It's quite rare because when you sign a project, you know exactly what will happen, meaning that there are terms about durations, about deliverables, about all the things that you will do, and you would propose this to the clients only if you are able to do it. It's quite rare, it happens, but it's quite rare that the clients, let's say, ask you something outside the deal, so the contract that you established. If it happens and you don't know exactly how to deal this, it's really rare that you refuse the job. So you can ask help outside. So this happens, and clearly you will establish another contract with a secondary part that will keep the information confidential. This can happen. Did you work on a application in drug discovery purposing? If yes, what are the trends and opportunities? How far behind is big pharma compared to companies like Yale, Optimize, for example? Okay. So you have to imagine big pharmas like giants, elephants, trying to move in the forest. And the forest has lots of woods, and it's really complicated to move. Imagine a company dealing with 40,000 employees, dealing with 30 clinical trials at the same time. Clearly, artificial intelligence is the future because everyone thinks that can save time, can save money, but as an elephant, you don't know exactly how to move because you have a big size. So what you usually do is you ask help to experts in the field that are really good and trying to implement this in your company. This is more the job of operational consultants, meaning that in strategy, you give all the vision and the strategies to solve your problem. In operational consulting, you bring your knowledge inside the company. So you bring, for example, an artificial intelligence software, you bring a new, let's say, a group of experts that can restructure the things. So I think that the strength of these small companies is that they know so well artificial intelligence that they know how to do it, they know how to deal it. But it's another story to teach to an elephant how to do it, because you should try to implement this practically in the day-by-day life of employees that are working with old stuff from 25 years. So I think that big pharmas are not they didn't arrive so far in this. They implement lots of things, they are doing lots of things, but it's quite slow. So they have not the same speed of the outside world, where, for example, if you are a smaller animal, you go faster, you know how to deal. So big pharmas are quite slow because they are big entities. It's really hard to manage big entities. So imagine to introduce new softwares in all the clinical trials you are dealing with. So who will manage this? Who will be at the computer with this new? Who will learn to deal with this? So I think that the trend is absolutely positive because everyone is trying to implement artificial intelligence inside, but it's quite slow. Just this. Okay, thank you.
I think everyone really liked the elephant metaphor.
Yeah, this is a picture that I got during my master. They're trying to explain us this because sometimes people think that big pharmas are like super agile, super fast. They are always on the edge of the science, and it happens. It is, but the world outside, especially in the technology, they are going faster than them because they know how to do drugs. They are treating people for a long time. So to implement these news, it's not easy. And this is where it arrived, the joint venture, the acquisition of companies, because they need help. So do you prefer working in a big consulting firm or small one? This is a really good, nice question, because I did both. Today I'm in a smaller one, and honestly, I prefer more the smaller one because, so you should know a thing. In Paris, the big companies in consulting, so the one that we call big firms, they have internally some competence centers. So they have the competence centers in automotive, the competence centers of life science, in the mode, for example, the aerospace, so every kind of fields, consumer goods, and so on. What happens is that they recruit especially generalist consulting. So they don't recruit specialists like me, because the idea is that depending from the business we will have this month, you will work. So if we will have 50% of our job in life science, we need people working in life science. If we will have 80% of people working in consumer goods, for example, you will switch in consumer goods. So big companies, it's rare, especially in France, that they hire specialists, okay? On the other hand, the strength of a small company, so a boutique, is that it's so specialized that they can be as competitive as a big company because they know exactly what is their field. So they know the life science. So the advantage is that in my case, I know all the 25 people I'm working with. Sometimes I work with them, I stay for all the week with someone, we can meet. So there is also a personal point of view. In big companies, you have 300 people, let's say, and you have each mission, you work with something new because you have to move, you have to move, you have to move. So this is a point that I found extremely good for boutiques. There is a personal life so you can really establish good relationships from a professional, personal point of view. And so there is more, in French it's called ambiance. So there is an idea that you are working all for the same goal because you are like a family, so you are more, in my case at least, you feel more this. And I'm Italian, so the family is quite important, but sometimes you don't have the advantages that have big companies. For example, big companies, if you have a mission in Mexico in a week, they just buy you a ticket and you leave, because they have more possibility to do these kind of exchanges. If you need an information from a South Korean drug, you just call a colleague that is on South Korea because it's in your company, is working with you, and you just ask this. In big, smaller companies, you need to do, let's say, by your own. It's more complicated. So, for example, I have to book myself the tickets. I don't have the secretary doing this for me. I have to call someone by myself in Korea. So, the things are a bit different. But the cool thing is that in the end, the deliverables, so the specialty is the same, because the clients will not be just working with big firms, because they don't have the certitude, and it's not like this, that they are the best, because the best is the one that knows the best the subject. And if you're specialized in a subject, or if you do everything, it may be the same level. So from what I have experienced, I really enjoyed both, but I will not come back for this reason of ambiance, let's say, to a bigger company.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have some more questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. Now you are experienced consultant, and you are in this environment. You know a lot of people. You developed a sharp understanding of some domain. Have you ever occurred to you this thought of opening your own boutique? And
Phrase? Sorry, I lost the.
have you ever had a thought of starting your own consultancy firm and going from there? And I'm curious, what is like a typical timeline of a firm developing? You building credibility, getting them to trust you. Yeah.
So I thought about this. So first, for the first part of the question, I thought about also creating my own entity in the future, but I thought more about creating a twin septon strategies in Italy where I will manage the trying to bring the knowledge that I have experience that I gather in certain strategies and moving it in, for example, in Milan or in Rome, and with the same brand, with the same people, trying to work as strategy consulting in my country. For the second part of your question, the path is quite you become senior times. Again, let's say 2 years, 2, 3, depends. And then from project manager, you have the possibility to become senior project manager and then partner. And so when you will become partner, it means that you have shares of the company. So if there are profits, you will have profits. If there are loss, you have loss. And you will manage the company. So this is also another opportunity. And currently, I'm liking so much my job that I can easily see myself in 10 years become project managers and partners. There is, I have no doubt about this. But things in this field evolve quite fastly, especially in life science. So I cannot exclude that if I would fall in love in a new technology or in a startup or a biotech or on a product, but let's say that if you start from scratch, from zero, just after your degree, in 10 years, you will be able to become project manager. So to manage really project by your own. And the cool thing about this job, one of the cool things of the job is that, as I said, you grow so fast because people after 2-3 years get bored and it's demanding and there are different reasons why you grow fast, but you evolve. And with you, also your salary. That is not something you should not talk about because each step that you do, you gain a little bit more. And because the company wants to keep you, so they try to reward you. And because you are really bringing something that is exceptional, because it's really exceptional to be able to manage a project by your own, to deal with big companies, and to present in front of the 10 most important people of a big pharma, So the cool thing is this, is that you can start from zero, you can become fast someone, you can create your network in some years. And it happens also that a client becomes so affectionate to you and to your job that ask you either to go to work for them, either to work just you alone for the next missions. So sometimes it happens that you create like a satellite company where you are expert in this field and you work just in this small field, for example. I saw, for example, a partner leaving the companies where I was before to create his own consulting company. And the question that I did to other colleagues was, how can he do, like, now he's alone, like he doesn't have the strength of the network that he had before. But if you think that you just need 2 clients a year to earn $250,000 or 300 or 500, you know that you don't need hundreds of clients to survive and to have your companies because you know how to do the job alone. So they answered me that he was really good in the field. He had just 3 clients for the next 3 years, and you can do it. So this is another cool thing because you create a network, you show your value, and people start to trust you because you really have an impact on their jobs, on their life, and on their business. Welcome.
May I ask you, can you please give us some salary range that people usually get in consulting?
Consultors, or you can find glass doors, so you can just write the name of companies and you can check. What can I give you is like a range. Let's say that the starting salary in consulting, then it depends from the kind of companies, because there are companies that are paying 30-40% more, 50% sometimes if it's a big one, really a big firm that everyone wants. 35K, 45K, and you can increase. You can become a project manager at 60K, 70K, 80, depends on the job. But what is astonishing till today to me is that now I have 30 years old, okay? And I studied for most of my life because I did a PhD, I did a master, and this is like from 28 years, I'm really working in the business field, in the business environment, in the pharmaceutical environment. And I'm earning something like identical to the PI I was working with of 60 years old in my lab. So I have the half of her age and I'm earning the same.
Oh, that's very rewarding.
I will keep working well and will keep staying in the consulting. I will earn more than that, like the double probably, that there is between and the private field. And this is an example that you also can bring in research. I have a colleague of mine working in research in another country, but that she has the same age of me. And she's already earning like me. That is the salary of our principal investigator of 60 years old in a public university. So if you think still today that you want to do research, I encourage you to do it research. But it's a vocation, you know, because you need to really love the field. You want to do it. And especially in academia is a vocation. So my suggestion is try to do research in a company and you will enjoy again research and you will earn more. The difference is that in academia, you're quite free. You can choose your own research. In companies, if you work for 10 years on a drug that is not working and in the end, the statistical data do not prove that it is effective on population, you just cut it from the budget and you will start from tomorrow in another drug. So this happens. You need to be ready to do this bet. You need to be ready to renounce to the individuality of your ideas and projects, to bring your capacities to the company, because you will not choose. It will be someone else that will choose for you. This is the difference. So it depends from what you want from your life. I mean, money are important, but are not everything. They are not what are identifying you as a person, on the impact that you have and the happiness that you have. So it depends on what you want. Me, I wanted to do consulting, strategy consulting, and it happened that it's well paid. But I need to do effort day by day to keep the same level of accuracy and be good, you know. Probably when I was doing research, if I wanted to wake up at 11 and stay at the lab and in the lab until night, I was able to do it. But now I cannot, because I have a call at 9:30, you know, with 10 people. So you have to choose what you want to do.
Yeah, it's so important to find a mentor who can help you and guide you. Like otherwise, you're like looking into all these spheres of possible interests, and you're just lost.
Yeah, of course. So the secrets, as I say to Julia the first time that we spoke, is really to understand your chances, what you can do, and then you can choose. But if you don't know what is strategy consulting, if you don't know you don't know exactly what is the sales, what is marketing, everything thinks they know what marketing is. Nobody knows what marketing is because it's so complicated. It's not just to put a label on a drug, you know. is really to study the market, to understand the people, to understand what they want, to understand how many medical doctors are prescribing some drugs. So it's super complicated, but you should know. Once that you know, and you can know only networking and reading books and speaking with people, once you know, you can do your choice.
Thank you very much for your talk. It was very, very informative. I learned a lot of new things myself. I studied it a bit, but now I really have much better understanding.
Welcome. So it's not easy, you know. In my case, I did 25 live interviews where they asked me lots of crazy things in all companies, because it's really complicated to enter in the field. But once you enter, you can do really what you want. And I remember once they asked me, so they saw on my CV that I was a creative person, because I like also literature and I like reading, writing, you know. And this person asked me if you can explain the purple color to a blind person, what you will do, you know. And after 10 minutes, they asked me how many trees you have in the cemetery of Montparnasse, so in the cemetery near here, because they want to know how you react. They want to know how you are structured, how you think, because in the end, they will make the difference between you and another person in front of a CEO. So if you have a CEO of a company in front of you, will you be able to answer if he does a crazy question? Will you be able to structure an answer to keep calm? And this is the reason why it's so complicated to enter in the field, because it's quite demanding. You need to study a lot, you need to train a lot, and then if you enter, you have really all the opportunities you want, because you demonstrate your value and you can also switch the job easily. This is a really good point of consulting. And I know people that are doing consulting just because it will be easier to switch. So they just work 2-3 years, they demonstrate that they are good in the field, and then they will switch because they still don't know what to do exactly. And this is also an opportunity, you know, it's a technique, but it's quite complicated to enter.
Thank you very much. Do we have some more questions, or we can probably finish on that?
I check if I forgot some question. Let me see.
I wanted to say, like, more related to the meetup rather than this particular event. And there's this podcast I'm listening to. It's called Bioinformatics Chat. The URL is bioinformatics.chat, and they give a lot of insight into people who are developing solutions, like software solutions for bioinformatics. And I found it really useful to gain some background coming with no background to this.
Okay, this is great. But is it online?
Yeah, you can just, on any podcast solution, you can just get it for free and listen to it. And if you go to bioinformatics.chat, it's a URL, then you can see it.
Thank you. I have a last question. In France, do parents prefer people from Grande École or also the universities? So this is a complicated question, because I will answer in a personal way. As an Italian emigrated from his country, starting living in Paris, okay? The economy of France is really centralized, meaning that they can manage everything by their own. So in Italy, for example, it's not so centralized, because our economy is based lots of exportation, really a lot. So we need other companies to work with, you know. And in France, you can, let's say, survive in this environment, and you can do business with all the companies near to you. Clearly, we are speaking about companies that are international. The problem is that in these companies that are, let's say, Roche, Pfizer, Takeda, all the big companies, they are managed by people that came historically from Grande École. So what they want is that they want to pay consultants that came from Grande École, because they know that is the excellence. Then this doesn't mean that if you did the university, or you did a PhD, or you did a master in another company, you cannot do all the path by your own, reaching the company and working from them. For example, I did lots of interviews also with big company that they were open to my position because I demonstrate that I was able to do the job. But statistically, it's really hard because if recruiters receive 50 curriculums a day and 25 came from Grande École, let's say that they have the prejudgment or the idea that these people are excellent. So you cannot interview everyone. You cannot. So you need to do some choices. And if they find two curriculum that are really similar and they have to do a choice, they will do the safest choice because for them, historically, the Grande École is most safe. But I think I am the example of someone that didn't do the Grande École, so didn't do the prepa. But when I was working in the big company I worked before, on 200 people, I was the only Italian, the only one with a PhD, and the only one that didn't do a prepa. So I just let you think about the differences. If you really want to do it, you can do it, but it will be harder in France because there is this story that is totally different from another one. The same company where I worked in Paris, in Berlin, so the headquarters of Berlin, love to recruit people from all kinds of university. There is no prejudgment about Grande École. There are no Grande École. There is just your path, your curriculum, you know. In Italy, we don't have Grande École. We don't have a specialized path. We have just two big schools, business school really known, the Bocconi and the Lewis, and some private ones in medicine, but there is no this limit. So in the end, it depends from your country, in particular in France, there is more, it's more difficult if you didn't do a Grande École, but it's not impossible. I'd be curious to know why you choose France and how you like it here. So I chose France because it was near from Italy. I was able to speak a bit French because I did French studies in school. And as I came here with my girlfriend, she's now my wife. She wanted to work in a country as me, near to Italy, and with some same cultural roots that are similar, you know. And then I obtained an internship in the Pasteur Institute. So it was like it happened, and I just followed the moment. So if all these French firms have mostly people Grande École, does it not limit the diversity of cultural ideas? Well, you know, from Grande École, there are people from all countries. There are, I think that 50% of people are from France, 50% are from the rest of the world. So in the previous company, I worked with Lebanese people, people from Algeria, people from Tunis, people from Japan, people from Germany. So probably it limits a bit because 50% of people are French, from the France state. But in the end, I think it's quite open. It depends from the company in the end, because you always have some big firms that historically have just this kind of profile. But again, they come from a Grande École. They don't come from Paris with Parisian parents. So as everyone can do a Grande École, culturally, it's quite open. I spoke with all kind of culture there. So I think that it's not really a limit. It's a structural limit because historically they hire this kind of profile. But again, there are different kind of profiles in these schools. So I didn't see this huge limit. But thanks for the question. It's a complicated one, and I like them most.
I guess if we don't have any more questions, we can finish. It was really enlightening. And I hope on our future events, we still have another question.
Yeah, I will answer to this one, and then probably we can close. So before doing consulting, reading this book, I wanted also in parallel to do venture capitalist. So I will not explain you exactly what is. It's quite long to understand, but is not so far from consulting for different ways. And I was thinking to do also management directly in companies. So I wanted to manage the projects or manage research, but inside companies, so not externally as a consultant. These were the, let's say, three paths I selected at the beginning. Then speaking with people, understanding the job, and also what I will be able to do, in the end, I decided consulting. But at the beginning, I was in between these three opportunities, yes. In the end, I think also if I will switch in the future the job, I think I will end up working in something with strategy, because it's something, it is the thing that I love most. The fact that you have a problem and you have to find a way to solve the problem, and you need so to be creative, but you need to be structured, you need to understand your environment. So I think that also if I would work in the future for another firm, another company, probably a pharmaceutical one, I will try to enter in the strategic board of direction or strategic board that are managing trials, but always something that is involved with the strategy.
Okay, great. I guess on that we can finish. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. It was a pleasure. And if you have questions, like, don't hesitate to add me on LinkedIn. We can try to speak more about something. You know that the time, I don't have lots of time, but when I have the possibility during the weekend, I really like to help and to let other people inform, because I was in your situation in the past, and I would have loved someone that was able to speak with me and trying to let me understand the different opportunities that I had. So don't hesitate.
Thank you very much. And I hope to, and I also thank everyone who came, who listened to us, and I hope I'll see you at the next event. And
Thank you again. Bye. Have a nice day.